Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura Matillo.
Firstly, we'd like to start tonight with thanking our sponsor of the Dog Talk Live Q&As, Enduro, high energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat, for jumping on board and sponsoring our live Q&As.
Tonight we are lucky enough to be speaking with Robert Johnston from Shady Acres Working Stock Dogs, who will be picking what he thinks is the best question from our live viewers, and they will win a bag of Enduro Plus. Welcome, Robert. How are you going?
Yeah, everything's great, thank you. And good evening to all the listeners. Good evening, yes.
That's great, mate. What did you get up to today, Robert?
I had a day sitting on the tractor with the wind blowing like all Billy O, blow a dog off the chain, mulching a paddock that the cattle couldn't eat down. Yeah. And it was very dusty, very dusty.
I hope you had your safety glasses on, mate.
I had glasses on, but not safety glasses, yes.
So tell us a bit about yourself, your family, where are you from, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm from Casino, Tatham actually, which is between Casino and Coracai. And Lismore's only 20 minutes away too, so we're nicely located and 35 minutes from Evans Head at the beach, if we wanted to go that far.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm a married man of 49 years with my wife, Narelle.
Lucky woman.
And she's been lucky. I reckon I've been real lucky to have somebody to be able to do the chores when I go away. Yeah, we had 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And yeah, naturally they're all grown up and got families of their own now. But we're very, very proud of them all. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what do you do with your days these days, Robert?
Most of my days, Thursdays and Saturdays are taken up with people coming here to train their dogs, and it keeps me motivated to make me work my dogs as well. These days I'm getting fairly lazy at being motivated to go and work the dogs. So if I've got somebody coming here, I've got to go and run the cattle in and the sheep in. So if I've got to do that, I might as well have some competition for myself. Yeah. So that's what I do. I'm at the sale yards Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm very, very much been a cattle dealer all my life. Now I class myself as a grazier, and I'm all the time buying cattle small enough for us to be able to work our dogs on. And then when they grow up, I sell them as in-calf heifers. Yeah, and very rarely do I go to the sale and not come home with something. I'm always buying and selling. Yes.
What's the breed of choice, mate?
At the moment, I've got a lot of speckled park cattle, but I've been finding that they get too quiet too
lately.
quick. Yeah, and they get too quiet too quick. So I've had to go back to the Brahman cross type cattle to have a little bit more activity to be able to keep my pups and everybody else's young dogs motivated. Yeah.
Fantastic, mate. Any sheep down there, or up there rather, as well, or you purely just got cattle on your property?
No, I've only got a handful of sheep, 12 senior sheep, and then I've got lambs that I've weaned that are on a feedlot. Just for our own use, or anybody else wants to eat one down the track. But yeah, you got to have sheep for those pups. That some of them are a little bit standoffish when they're young, and you can get them a little bit more motivated if you've got them on sheep or something a bit smaller than putting them on cattle. Yeah.
Well, what age would you like to start your younger dogs on sheep and then transfer them to cattle?
I'm lucky with the setup I've got here that my runs through the day, everything's penned up of a night, but through the day, 5 or 6 pups might run together in an acre block, and I've got 7 of those 1 acre blocks. And then when I see the sheep going past and the pups are starting to run up and down the fence chasing at the sheep, you know they're ready to start and do a little bit of the homework with. Although I have had people come in and say, I want to see that pup work, and they might only be 4 months old. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, they don't disappoint. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And where did your passion for dogs start?
Where did my passion with the dog start? It started very, very young. I was a drover at Alstonville which is very close to Ballina, and we had compulsory dipping in those days. And my dad used to dip for 30 different farmers, and they might have 2 or 3 mobs, and that had to happen every 21 days. So by the time you finished the cycle, you were starting the cycle again.
Well, how'd that happen, mate? What compulsory dipping? How do you talk us through it? How did that happen?
How does it happen?
How did you do it? Well,
it's a plunge dip where the
Yep.
cattle walk up a race and then they jump into a 6'6" depth at one end, and then it's like steps at the other end where they walk out once they've had a plunge dip.
Yep.
And they were what we call the Queensland tick, and they didn't want them here on the North Coast, and they still don't want them. And they've just about got them under control, but every now and again we have an outbreak. Keeps the local tick department busy, yeah. But
Yep.
all the cattle at the sale yards are always dipped, even still, yeah. But I had to go back to that question.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Yeah.
At probably 8-year-old, when I used to help my dad do this dipping, and you've just got to have a dog because you were driving the cattle 4 mile, 3 mile, whatever on the road. And that's how. So I've had dogs all my life, and they were always in those days red Kelpie dogs. And so that's how I started off. So this game it's only a new game to me because I've only been in it 18 years. It sounds like a long while, but it's not when you talk to some of the old guys that have been in it for all their life, sort of thing. Whereas I've been a drover, a musterer, cattle carer on properties, whatever you might like to throw at me, I could do.
What advice would you give to young people thinking of getting into the farming industry?
What do I think about young people getting into the industry?
No, sorry. What advice would you give to young people that want to get into the industry? Yeah.
Look, for sure. Yeah, don't be frightened to have a go. It's a lifestyle all of its own. I'm 70 and I wouldn't have changed it for quids. I wouldn't want to live in the city. I just enjoy going out. And when I was a horse rider, I don't ride a horse anymore. My back won't let me. It's called riding too many buck jumpers, and the more they used to pelt me, the more I wanted to ride them. And I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it now. But look, for young people, grab a dog, go along to somebody that knows a little bit about it, and they'll get you on the right track to get you motivated. Once it gets in the blood, I can tell you, it gets in. This dog trialing gets in the blood. When I was right into it 4 or 5 years ago, I was doing 33 to 38 trials a year. You've got to have a good wife at home to do the chores, I can tell you. Yeah. Because I was never at home for a weekend, or if I went to Queensland, I might stop up there for 3 weeks and do 4 or 5 trials while I was up there, So, and that's how it gets in the blood. Yeah.
Your mechanic would have loved you as well, putting all those Ks in the car.
You've got to have your vehicle in good order, because a lot of the driving was done like Claremont, Emerald, Springshaw, all those places are way up in Queensland. Nearly 14 hours for me driving up. Well, going up's all right. I used to take 2 days. I'd go as far as Roma and stop, and then go right on through the next day. But coming home, I'm like a bear with a sore head. Once I turn for home, I'm coming. And if I get a bit weary, I just pull over on the side of the road. Nobody would touch you because you got dogs on board and have a sleep for an hour, hour and a half. And you'll hear the dogs rattling, or you say, "Well, it must be time to go again." Yeah.
Cool.
So, how growing up has the type of work influenced what you do with this? How has the type of work you did as a kid and now changed the way and what you look for in a dog?
They're 2 different types of dogs. What I was looking for in that younger day, I was always looking for something that had that bit of speed, that wanted to get out to the front, block the mob, block a gateway, and have a bit of bite about it. Whereas with this game, I'm looking for that more placid type pup. And that's why I'm saying they're two different horses for courses. And I'm looking for that pup that wants to be with me. I really, really like that. That's a big must, is you walk in the pen and the first one to come over to you and stops with you, whether you're feeding it or not. That's the pup that really wants to do and please you. And really the whole game is the dog's got to like you and you've got to like the dog. It's a team effort. Yeah. But I don't like the shy pups. I find they're too temperamental, and they make really good pets if I get them. I don't very often get them because I'm very selective as to what I breed, when I breed. I might only breed 2 litters a year. There'll be more this year, but only because I'm frightened one old bitch is going to stop breeding at any stage, and I want to get another litter of pups out of it. But the pup selection is very it makes you think as to what you want. And if you rang me and said I wanted a pup to live in town that's not going to need a lot of walking and whatever, I'd say, oh yeah, I'll pick the doughiest one that's laying around in the kennel. It's not up and motivating. You'll find out 9 times out of 10 that makes a beautiful pet for anyone if they happen to want that sort of thing. And then they're really good for that endurance testing and those competitions of the night that they put the dogs to.
The agility.
That's the one. That's the word I was looking for. They're very, very good at that. Very, very good at it, and pick it up very quickly, which you would expect, because that's why most of my young dogs are broke in at 8 months old, 9 months old. They're ready for competition. Yeah.
What type of dog are you trying to breed for yourself?
I need that middle of the road, quieter, placid dog that can walk up to cattle, walk up to sheep or goats, and do the whole 3 jobs with the one dog. I know I still haven't got the perfect dog for it, but it's what I'm aiming for. The old saying is you only ever get one good dog in your lifetime. And all I can say to anyone is we do only get one good dog in our lifetime, because that's the only dog we take to work. We don't go and get the second best dog or the third best dog. We keep taking the main dog. And that's a good point. And if you every now and again left that good dog behind and used the second dog or the third dog as much as what you use your good dog, it'd be as good as the first dog. So that it is a bit of an old fad that you only ever get one good dog in your lifetime, and that just depends how much time you want to put in on that one good dog, you know. And I would reckon I would have 3, if not 4 dogs here that I could just go and put my fingers on and do any job with, because I don't take the same dog every time. But if I'm training a pup, which the books will tell you, don't train a pup with an older dog. That might be so if your older dog hasn't got any brains or isn't a good cattle dog or a good sheep dog or whatever. But if you've got something that's been the Australian champion twice or 3 times, I don't see why you can't use him to be there to teach that.
We've all got one of them at home.
What, all got a good one, have you?
No, 2-time Australian champion.
Nice, yeah.
I think so you had a bit of an incident there after you won the Tamworth event, and do you want to talk a bit about that? And where I'm going with that is, you've had some dogs come on board since then. So if you obviously weren't spending time with the other dogs, you would have only had that one good dog.
That's correct. It's correct, but it's amazing which dogs will put their hand up at a different event. Like I always had 6, maybe 8 dogs that I go away to a trial with, and you might get bad cattle, and once again, it's all in the luck of the draw of the 3 head of cattle you get. That's a start. But regardless of that, you've got to have a dog that can listen, can obey, can do what you want, so that one day he'll put his hand up and say, pick me, it's my day. And that's what happened at Tamworth. It was the very first trial they'd run at Tamworth. It was a big thing that could have really set a whole lot of our dog trial, as in sheep trialing, as in cattle dog trialing. It could have set us, yeah, I don't know how high we could have went, but we could have went places in a big way.
We put the country on the map.
Yep. And anyway, there was a lot of dogs in it. It was, I'd only be guessing, I think it was something like 180 dogs in the event. And they did a third round, did a first round, a second round, and then a third round. And out of the top 60, I had 4 dogs in the top 60. And then they got to the top 20, and I'm not sure. I think I only had 3 in the top 20. And then when it came down to the dead set final and placings, I had 3 dogs in the placings up to 10th place. So I'd had a pretty fair trial. There were some very, very good dogs there. The very first run I had was with a bitch I had a lot of time for. And you cut me off if I'm carrying on too much. But
you're right.
I became so overcome going into that big stadium at Tamworth. And then they said it was on live stream, and the lump in my throat was so big that I'd never been filmed or videoed or anything like that, and I couldn't even talk to the dog. All I could do was whistle to it, or she'd have known there was a problem. And I wasted that whole run on that one good bitch because of being overcome by that event. You know, it was just meant so much to us to even just be there. And then the next run from then on, it just fell into place. It was just part of the normal go. But that's how you can become overcome. And you've just got to try and get around that. And people say, oh, you wouldn't have a worry in the world. But that one did. I don't mind being honest about it either. It did get to me, yes. It was really good to run first with that young dog. That young dog only lived another 3 months after we got home. He got bitten with a snake. I went down to help the neighbour, and he went in to block a bull that was in the wrong spot, and he must have, as he hit the bull on the nose, there must have been a big black snake there right at the spot, and got him right on the nose. And I had him at the vet in no time at all, but they said because it was up on the nose, it went straight to the head, and he would have never been any good had they have survived him. Yeah. But yeah, but anyway, then I kept his brothers and his sisters, and they've all been good, and yeah, and they've both been the ones that have been the Australian champions, but their mother before them, she was the first one to put me right on the map in the year 2012. We went up to do 4 trials in Queensland, and I was doing no good whatsoever. Couldn't even get in a final. I had my son-in-law there and said to him, I think we might miss the last trial, the next one at Springshaw. It's the Queensland Championships and the Australian Championships. I think we might miss it. We might go home. And he said, oh, you never know your luck, And I went there and won it at 11 o'clock at night. So it was pretty good, yeah. It was pretty good. It was a very easy drive home, I can tell you. Yeah.
Do you want to go about questions from Danny?
Yeah, we had a question come through from Danny Kerr. How much training do you do per week leading up to trial? And do you back off training, or do you increase training when it comes closer?
I only practiced or train dogs twice a week, which is Thursdays and Saturdays when there's somebody here. The same dog wouldn't get worked on Thursday that gets worked on Saturday, only because I've got so many of them. And my senior dogs, once they are seniors, I hate to say this, but they don't get worked at all. They don't get warmed up. They don't get tuned up. They might go for, everything goes for a 5K run of an afternoon. The whole lot, 28 dogs go for a run altogether. Going out, they're allowed to play up, go in front, do whatever they like. But coming home, I get off the bike, I crack the whip, and they've got to be behind the bike all the way home. That's part of where their education comes. And my senior dogs, look, unless they do something wrong at a trial that I think that just needs a tune-up, they might help me with a pup or two up in the trial arena, but that's as far as it goes. And twice a week, I wouldn't think about going and just working on my own up there and working young dogs. I know that sounds bad, but that's me. And I like to think that my dogs don't need that much work to improve. Sometimes you give them a fortnight off. You can see the benefit of giving them dogs a fortnight off. But if I was to go down and bring the 28, 30 head in, I might take a different dog each time I go down there to do that. And that's part of educating them to a different style of work, so that if you want to sell them, you can. And I do like that Johnny Cash.
There's another question coming in from Tracy Huxtable. What kind of things do you look for in your dogs that you feel make better trial dogs?
Okay, well, first of all, I like that pup that is easy to approach. When you go in to feed your pups, you walk in, you put your feed down, you say wait, and you won't let them touch the feed. The one that sort of stands right back, you know they're just a little bit timid, but the one that dives in, they're going to be a little bit more rougher and more for the paddock out in the big world, as I call it. That dog that's just that wants to be there, but it's not going to push in too hard. They're the ones I pick out, and it's mainly just because of their temperament, the way they come in. Because trial dogs, I don't want something that's going to be biting at the wrong time. I like them to bite, but only when I tell them to. If I say push, that's a license for them to be able to give them a run along, you know. But apart from that, I'll just say that'll do, and they'll just work out again, or I'll say keep out, and they'll kick out again away from the cattle to give them a bit of room so that cattle have got time to think about where they're going or what they're up to. But picking a pup has got a fair bit to do with it, and then another part of picking a pup is make sure they're properly wormed. Geez, it's too easy to take worms home, and then 2 or 3 days you'll find the pup's dead with roundworm or hookworm. It's a big problem, particularly anywhere here on the coast. You should do them every fortnight until they're 3 months old. Then after that you can back off a little bit, but worming them is a big thing. There's been a lot of people ring you up and say, oh, geez, I hope your pups are wormed. I've lost the one I paid a lot of money for. And everybody is paying a fair bit of money for pups these days. So you want to make sure you've got the right care done, as in vaccinations and in worming.
If you could bring another...
Does that answer that question good enough?
Oh, I think you got there, yeah. Especially, I think around temperament was your biggest attribute that you think. And speaking of, is there something, if there's an attribute that you'd like to bring into your dogs, is there something that you'd like to bring into them, or you're happy with how they are? Or
no, I'm trying to bring in, and I'm only getting a smidgen of it every now and again, is that front foot bite. Yep. Where the dog, if the beast puts their head a bit high, which some Brahman cattle will put their head, that the dog will bite the front foot instead of trying to jump up high and grab a nose or an ear. Yep. I'd like to get all my dogs to have that front foot bite, and it's something for me to work on. But I've got a touch of it, but only a touch of it. Yeah.
Why would you like a bit more of it?
I believe that's as good as biting it. a beast on the nose. Sometimes you get a better direct turn if you're at an obstacle, say in the trial arena, and it's not as deliberate roughness. It's just that dainty little bite on the front which makes them turn away from which way the dog is. The best thing is the dog that's got that straight walk up and doesn't even touch him, just got that straight walk up, and the cattle think, oh, he's going to bite me, I'll move away from him, and he doesn't even get there. You know what I mean? So
it just has that presence about him.
That's got that presence, and that's the word I love using. But Narelle says, you back off using that tonight.
Got to do what the boss says, mate.
Oh, yeah. But I really do like that dog that can walk straight in a straight line, and then when you say stop, and then he just stands there and stares at him, and they walk straight away from him. That's brilliant. Yeah, that is brilliant. Yeah.
Yep. We actually got a question here from Karen Higgins, and do you think that front foot bite depends on the breed of cattle that you've got as well, or that you're maybe working, or
you wouldn't want a lot of it if you were working cows and calves, because the dog would get hurt badly.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it's horses for courses, and if you had just the dog mainly for cow and calf work, you probably wouldn't want it as predominant in your breed as what I'm sort of looking for. I'd say that'd be the case, because cows and calves, they're very, very hard on dogs, as we know, and I don't like any dogs I sell to go straight to cow and calf work until they're 3-year-old, because I think it takes the good out of your dog, breaks their heart too early, teaches them how to tail turn, how to cross, all those sorts of little habits that you don't want. Yeah.
And do you think that's just purely feeling the pressure of a young dog that might not be maturely sound in the head yet?
Oh, most certainly there. Yeah. You've hit the nail right on the head there, because
I try.
Yeah. But once they've got that little maturity, about 3-year-old, they sort of can handle it pretty well. The only time I would use a dog that was, say, coming up towards 2-year-old, I would make sure he had a senior dog with him.
Yep.
And that way they always feel as though they can go back in and have another go. Whereas if they're on their own, they're the boss, and they get hurt or trampled first straight up, it makes them wary. And then next thing you'll notice that you've got a tail turn on your hand, and one tail turn becomes 2 tail turns. And and then that is the hard part, is to try and get them out of that. That is the hard part.
So if you can get away from it to start with, well, then you don't have to worry about that particular problem.
That's right. That's why I sack myself at trials. If I go there and the cattle aren't easy to get on with, and I've got a younger dog out there, I'll just pull my hat off. Thanks, Judge, I'm out of here. Because those little bad habits that they get at a trial, it might take you 6 months to get them out of that when you go home. And so you're better to call it quits beforehand, and not let that be a problem. Like, you don't have to win every trial you're in. We'd like to win every trial, but it just does not happen. It does not happen. The day you leave home and think you're going there to win a trial, you might as well have stopped at home.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to my workers, my trialers that come here for training days and whatever. Don't ever think that you can't be beaten on the day, because you can. You only got to get 3 bad beasts and you will be beaten. Yeah.
So talking about having people that come out and training, is there anyone that you particularly modelled the way you train or handle a dog or work cattle or trial cattle around?
Most definitely how you start them off. And that's why I won't break dogs in for you. You could ring me up, Daniel, and beg me to break a dog in for you. I wouldn't. But I'd say to you, you come out to my place on Thursday or Saturday, whatever day suits you. at 9:30, and I'll show you exactly how to get that dog started. And I'll have one of my good dogs there. I'll let you go out first and show me what your pup can do. And then I'll have one of my better ones there so that I don't have to walk too far if they break up and split away. And my dog will hold them and then stop where I tell it to stop until I tell it to move again. And that way we can teach the people where to be at what time with their dogs.
Yep.
And that is the biggest thing, is
Timing.
teaching the people where to be. Yeah.
Yep. And was there someone that you modelled yourself on when you got into trolling?
I did know the man, and I put a lot of cattle out for him as a young fellow. His name was Les Armstrong, and everybody knows Les Armstrong. And if they don't know him, they'd have read about it, or they'd have seen his dog bloodlines somewhere along the line. And he was one of those sort of men. He could go to a sheep trial yesterday, then turn up at a cattle trial today with the same dogs, and didn't matter how bad the cattle were, he could just seem to put them around. He was just a natural at it. He was a wizard at it, yeah. And he'd turn up at Lismore Show. He'd have 14 or 15 dogs in his ute. He'd make them get out of the ute, have a run right round the whole trotting track. Then he'd sit them in a circle. Then he'd let 3 or 5 sheep out of the horse float, and they'd keep the sheep in the middle of those 15 dogs or whatever dogs he had there, and he'd ask one dog at a time to get up and move them out of the square, and try and work them in between all the dogs sitting down on the ground. You know, that's what a wizard he was. I do a little bit of Bangla show, Kyogle show. I did a couple of demonstrations, and mate, I'm not even in the same class as what he was. Yeah. And I don't want to be, because I haven't got that sort of time to put in on it. Yeah. But
amazing.
It was just, he was an unmarried man, just lived with his dogs and lived for his dogs, and that's how he got the results. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
They wouldn't nag him about washing dishes of a night time, mate. They'd just be happy that they got fed.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah.
So personally for you, what do you get out of running your training schools? Like, what's the kicker?
What do I get out of it?
Yeah, personally, like, how do you feel and that sort of stuff?
I don't charge, if that's what you're getting at.
No, so what's the kicker? How does running the schools? What's the personal satisfaction for you?
Oh, dead set when you see them turn up to a trial, and they're doing really, really well in a trial, or the young dogs come through a problem that you've been working on at your practice days.
Yeah.
And we work on it one another, and we might have 5 or 8 blokes here, and we're all sitting up in the grandstand watching one another, and then I'll walk down. Rather than embarrass them, I'll walk down in the middle of the arena and I'll say, just stop your dog there for a bit and tell them where they went wrong. And while I'm standing there, I'll say, now, would you do that again for me now? And then I go back and I tell the boys what I've told him, and they all learn from that too. I don't charge a red cent for it.
Yep.
I have never charged anyone to come to my place, and it will never start that I'll charge anyone. But yeah, I get a lot of satisfaction out of seeing people go to trials that come to my place, particularly if their dogs, well, some of them won't switch on until they're sort of 18 months old. And then when all of a sudden you'll see that the penny has dropped, it's great. Yeah, it really is great. And even if they beat me in a final, I think that's good. Yeah.
And is there something that you'd like to see change in the way people handle, or where do you think most people can improve?
Oh, I reckon anyone that's in the game, they love their dogs to tears, and that's the best part about it, is you've got to really enjoy your animal, enjoy being with it, when we camp away, yeah, you'll see blokes, they'll take their dog for 4 walks a day.
Yep.
A lazy bloke like Robert will only take his dogs twice, but I take the whole lot in one go.
Yeah.
I don't take one at a time. They don't get hands on one at a time. I take the whole lot. Might have, as I said, sometimes I've got 8 dogs, sometimes I've got 10. I used to have a dozen, but there's no joy in it once you've got that many dogs. It's too much work. And look, as for people, what they could do to improve, it's mainly just keeping your dogs wormed, keeping them clean of these vaccinations, the same as we've got to do now with COVID. We've got to have these vaccinations kept up to date, because it is a very cruel death, I'm led to believe, by the vets if they get these parvo and all these others that can come through. I've seen cattle die with blackleg and whatever, and that's a very cruel death. So but as far as the looking after, everybody's got cages now. There's no dogs tied loose on the back that they can fly over the back and hang while they're going along.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing, which used to happen. It did happen, yeah. But now everything's in the cage, weatherproof, so they don't. If it's raining, they're not getting wet. 10 or 12 years ago, my dogs weren't even covered. You know, they were in a cage, but they weren't even covered. When you're driving home and you had a storm, went through a storm, the poor buggers, they were wet. There's no doubt about that. But now they got a motel now. Yeah.
I might need to sleep in the back of your ute one day. It sounds like you've actually got a lot of compassion for not just dogs but animals in general, and you think the way they're looked after is a big point of looking after your dogs, and they'll look after you is probably the message I'm getting from you.
That is the big thing. Yeah, if you look after them, they look after you. Make sure their pens are always clean, and I don't wash out every day, but I certainly muck out every day. The pens are always clean for them. You get a few dirty ones. Well, they go into a different area that where it's a bit easier just to squirt the hose in and clean out. I wish they were all clean, but you can't have all your dogs that way. Yeah.
Got a question here from Marie McKillop. She says, "What's your favourite trial and why?"
My favourite trial would have to be Benalbo.
Yeah.
Benalbo show trial or Benalbo trial itself. They have 2 trials a year up there. The gentlemen up there always present cattle that are not man shy, and if you're going to do extremely well and get big scores, that's where it will be. It will be Benalbo Showground, and I've been going there for a lot of years, and been doing quite well up there too. But I do get beaten. But I've had 98s and 97s and still not win it. So it is a good trial and great atmosphere. But there is a lot of good trials. I probably shouldn't have just picked that one out, but it came straight to mind. There was no having to think twice about it.
You just always enjoy it.
Oh, I always enjoy it, that's for sure. Put up a few gazebos and we all sit in underneath it and tell fibs and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Another question here from Danny Kerr. In Queensland, are cattle broken to dogs before trialling?
Nowadays, yes, they are. Most of the people try to do the right thing because they realise we're travelling a lot of distances now to go to these trials. Not that we've done much in the last 18 months because we've not been able to get into Queensland or vice versa. But it's the cattle 10 years ago didn't have quite the preparation put to them that the boys are doing now. And
what does that preparation sort of involve?
It means make sure that the cattle aren't man shy, as in you've got to get those cattle within 3 metres of you to be able to get them through the obstacle at the trials. And so if those cattle are man shy and looking at you, it's all right to have one. You might be able to hide it in between the other two. But if you get them all, they're a bit man shy. You're sort of hitting your head against the brick wall trying to get them through the obstacles or get them anywhere as far as that goes. And that's why if you're going to travel 14 hours to go to a trial, you don't want your dog getting stampled either, because those dogs are starting to become very, very worthwhile in money-wise now. I just can't believe that it's taken this long, really, because, when I was a young fella growing up, we didn't even buy young pups off people. They'd give them to you,
Yep.
and that went on for a lot of years. I mean, a lot of years. And it's only here in the last, well, I probably believe it's only in the last 2 years since COVID came into it, that people have really worked out what dogs are worth, because they'll go to work no matter what's going on, what the weather is. They won't put up their hand and say, no, we're too tired to go to work today. We played up yesterday or anything. They're always there, and they're always wanting to be in the ute to go with you to work. And I think people have realised now that they're their best friend. They're their best friend. The only place I won't let a dog is in the yard, because I believe that's a good recipe to get hurt, is if you've got a dog in the stockyard with you. I tie mine up, only for the simple reason I like working with myself. I can step aside if I want. And if you've got a dog behind you, you might get stepped on, by a beast. But yeah.
How often do your dogs call in sick for work, mate?
My dogs don't call in sick for work. No.
So the value of them's up there, and it's about time people start to see that, right?
That's exactly what we're just about trying to say. Yes, is
100%.
Make a friend out of your dog. I sent one away there yesterday, and I rang the bloke and I said, now you make sure you make a good mate of this dog. He'd never had a dog before in his life. I said, you make a good mate of him, then go down the paddock one afternoon and just do a little job that doesn't matter if it goes pear-shaped. Just be out and enjoy the time being with that young dog. And then when you finish, give him a good pat and say, come on, mate, let's go home. And I said, in that way, you'll build up a good relationship. But if you go down and try to do an important job first up and things go pear-shaped and you start to take a dislike for that dog, you'll never rebuild that confidence in that dog ever. And I've seen it time and time again. So you've got to spend that little bit of time early when you get your dog first up, just to make sure that you have bonded with the dog properly, and then you go and do that job that's not important. And that's a big plus. It is a big plus.
Yeah, cool, mate. We got a few questions that have just rolled in here all at once. I'm going to ask Laura to see them because I've had a big day and I haven't got my glasses with me.
We've had one come in through from Dave Motley. What are some useful tips to young people starting out in dogs, mainly in relation to selecting dogs that suit them for both work and trialling?
It's very, very hard to get a young dog that you can do paddock work with, and then at the weekend expect him to go to a trial and be successful at a trial. I hope that's the way you've read that question out.
Yeah.
It just wasn't real clear. Yeah. And I'll go back a little bit to explain this. When I was minding a property, I had two teams of dogs. I had my mustering dogs and I had my trial dogs.
Yard dogs? Trial dogs, yeah.
The only time I took my trial dogs was if I knew I was only going to pull a few heifers into the yard or a few steers into the yard that wasn't going to knock them about, just to give them something different to do. But apart from that, no, I had my two different teams of dogs, and one of them was a red Kelpie.
There we go. One for all the Kelpie guys out there. I like it.
I got a smile in for you, Daddy.
You did, mate. You did.
Yeah, good on you.
No, I'm not dog racist, mate. I'll have a crack at anything.
Yeah, but I was, as I said, I was a red Kelpie man all my life, right up until 18 years ago. I've only been in the Border Collie game 18 years, and yeah, but I couldn't go back. I don't believe. I have a few Kelpies come here for practice days or training days, and no, they're just too quick for me now, too fast. Yeah, they want the job done before breakfast, whereas the Border Collie don't care if it takes till lunchtime. That's the best way of explaining it. Yeah, yeah.
Bit easier for your patients these days.
Yes, that's it, right. Yeah, and I like that dog that you're not yelling at, whether it's a Border Collie or what. I that dog that you got to yell at all the time. That every now and again he's got to override you. They're not much good for my patients, I'm afraid. Yeah, I usually try to.
That particular dog. Sorry, mate. You go.
I usually try to find somebody who wants a good mustering dog, and that's where that one goes. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that question might roll into the next question we got here from Josh Parker. It's, hi, Robert. What advice would you give to a disabled person in an action track chair to get into working sheepdog trials?
I wished I could answer that.
There.
Yeah, no, you haven't lost me. I had to think about that. I wished I could answer that because I'm not actually a sheep trialer. And I know only one person that's in a wheelchair and he works cattle. I don't know how I would answer that one. You would probably want a dog that was very faithful and very loyal.
Yep.
Because that's what it would be like. Yeah, in a wheelchair, you'd have to have something that wants to be beside you. And responds easy, like with a soft whistle to come back or a soft whistle to kick round. Yeah, I say I've only done three sheep trials in my whole lifetime, and that was only 6 months ago because I thought, well, there's no cattle trials on, I'll go and try a few sheep trials, and I did 3 of them. But I've got a lot to learn, I can tell you. I don't think I'd ever make a professional out of it. In fact, I'm sure I would never make a professional out of it. Yeah.
I think what you were saying there about having a pliable dog with a great temperament, what we were talking about just before I asked that question, I think that's the type of dog that you explained that would suit someone in that situation. I can only imagine, Josh would want a dog there that really wants to work for him and be his best mate and not going to want to run over him all the time.
That's correct. Yeah, you've answered that question nicely for me, Daniel. Yeah,
thanks, mate.
There. Yeah, you don't want that dog that's going at 100 mile an hour. He wants that middle of the road dog, that soft going dog. Yes, yeah, and it wouldn't be hard to pick one out either. No.
Yeah, you mentioned 3 sheep trialing there before. What are the big differences that you found between the 3 sheep trialing and the cattle trialing, other than obviously the stock? But yeah.
Oh, it's just more challenging. The best way I can explain it is I can read cattle. I certainly can't read sheep. And they move so much quicker because when I come out at Stanthorpe, I said to the judge, I thought I was going all right for a little while. And I said, and everything went pear-shaped. He said, you've got to learn to shut your mouth. In other words, let the dog do a fair bit of the thinking for itself. Yeah. And it worked. The next time I went out with the other dog, you've got to let them balance off the sheep naturally themselves rather than trying to tell them all the time. Yeah. Whereas that's the way I try to work with the cattle, and that's the way I tell my trialers and people that come here to learn. Try not to tell your dog every step of the way, because you don't want to make a press button dog out of it. You want it to think for itself. Because if you went out in the trees, just say you did have to go out and do a job unexpectedly, that dog mightn't be able to see where you are, but it can hear where you are, either on the horse or on the bike. You want it to use its own common sense. All right, we're going to bring these cattle back to where the bike is or where the horse is, and because you can't see where it's up to. So that's why you don't really want a press button dog. Every now and again, you've got to learn how to shut your mouth and just use a bit of sign language.
Yep. Actually, Jacob Ryan has asked, do you find stronger heading dogs or weaker heading dogs make better cattle dogs? And which do you prefer and why?
The perfect dog is the one that's got the 3 bites, the nose, the front foot and the heel. But I really like that dog that can go hard to the nose and then be prepared to give a little bit of ground once he's done the block up work.
Yep.
That dog that only half goes there, he's really, really hard to make him go right to the front and then walk in or come straight in and hit and then give ground. If they give ground, then they're giving the beast time to think, to turn around. Whereas if they keep hitting hard, then the beast will go over top of them and it all goes pear-shaped very quickly, yeah. That's you've got to have a good lead dog. There's no doubt about that. And they make a real good trial dog because they're all the time wanting to be at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. And that is probably the hardest part, is putting your sides on your dog to get them to 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock at your trial, because on the near side it's not so bad. It's on the off side it's not so bad. On the near side, the dog's a bit inclined to say, hey boss, that's your side. You look after that side, you know. So
yep.
You've got to try and make sure that dog comes right round to you at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, no matter which side of the obstacle you're standing, because he can't just keep saying, well, no, that's your side. You've got to help me do that. And they will. A real good dog will tell you that. Oh, no, that's your side, boss. Yeah.
What do you feel is your greatest achievement so far within working dogs?
Probably, I'm not one for patting myself on the back, and never have been. I can talk to you all day and won't tell you how good my dogs are, but I'll listen to how good your dogs are. But I've been the New South Wales handler for 7 years straight. I missed it this year. And I class that as being very consistent. There was never a dog, might have been Jimmy, might have won it twice for me, but I was the handler for the 7 years straight. And I think there were 6 different dogs to that. And, you know, that's a pretty fair effort.
I reckon so.
To be New South Wales handler of the year for 7 years in a row. Yeah.
Absolutely. And were they all dogs you bred?
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Actually, no, tell a fib. One came from Robin Sherwood right up on the top end of Queensland. Yeah. And that came from Robin Sherwood bred it, and Stan Dunkley, who was a very, very good friend of mine early in the piece. He gave the dog to me. He said, I can't keep it at home. Will you take it? And yeah, it was a big battle, but we got her, and she was a real good bitch. Yes, real good bitch.
What did you like about her?
What I liked about her was she didn't have to bite. Just her presence. She walked up,
yep.
and the cattle just automatically bent off her. So therefore, she didn't have to be rough with her. But if I said push, then she'd give me a little nip on the heel, or up the front. If I said block or hit them means they're allowed to go hard at it. That's what she'd do, and she was probably one of the better ones I had in that department. Yeah, that never bred on. She couldn't breed the same as good as what she was. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's a shame.
Oh, it happens. It happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're talking, actually, it just sparked me then. You talked before about, the dogs that you've been successful with that you've bred over for the last 7 years while you've won New South Wales Handler of the Year, and then this particular bitch couldn't breed on. So where's the consistency, you think, within the dogs that you were breeding yourself?
Probably I was a little more selective with the size I used with my own bitches.
Yep.
And that's why I love judging a dog trial, it makes you sit there and study that dog,
Mm.
and you might judge him 3 or 4 times in the year, and you can see whether he's a consistent worker. Then you try to find out whether he's a consistent breeder, whether
Yep.
he breeds on what his progeny are like, and that's yeah. I am very, very fussy as to what sire I use. Very, very fussy. And I probably didn't put enough thought into it, even though it was my own dog. At one stage, I put over that particular bitch. It just didn't work. It didn't match. Yeah. And that happens. That happens to the best of us. I don't care how good you are. There'll always be a lot of pups somewhere along the line that you don't. Yeah.
So are you mainly trialing bitches then?
I would have, had I have still been going, I would have had 6 bitches and only 1 dog. But because of COVID, now everybody that's buying dogs off me, they've got to be a bitch. Everybody wants bitches. So
Yep.
I've got 5 dogs here at the moment. That if I was going to a trial tomorrow, I'd have probably 6 dog pups in my dogs in my ute. So yeah, but yeah, I do like females, especially when you're camped away, mainly for cleanliness.
Yep.
You let them out; they're not going to wee on somebody's wheel and get you into trouble. That's the biggest thing, or wee on somebody's tent, and you know that can cause problems. Yeah. But,
It's my pet peeve.
yeah, but that and bitches seem to be easier to teach. I remember when I first started, I started with a bitch, and a gentleman said to me, "Robbie, if you're going to be any good, mate, you got to have male dogs. You got to have male dogs." And I went right through nearly for a long while before I had a male dog, even up in the race. But yeah, somewhere along the line, you've got to have a male dog if you want to start doing your own breeding. Yeah.
Can you trial a bitch on heat in cattle trials?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yes.
in yard trials you can't.
Not legally. Not legally you can't.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, not legally you can't.
Yep.
but it does happen. It
Yep.
does happen. And yeah, like if you've only got 1 or 2 dogs and you're going to a trial, my bitch might be coming on season. You just keep her away from everybody else and do your own thing. And yet if you go sheep trialing, you're allowed to take them.
Yeah, in yard trialing, you can't trial a bitch in heat, but in 3 sheeping you can, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you find? I find if I even try to trial one of my bitches when they're in season, they do my head in a bit because I find them a bit more temperamental and not thinking straight sometimes. You come across that at all within your pack?
I can't say I have.
Yeah.
But that sort of says I'm guilty of doing the job, So, but yes,
Yeah.
But there is the time that you can take a bitch to a trial and not be sure that she's on season. I went to a trial and won with the bitch, and then come home that afternoon and she took the dog unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
That very afternoon, and I'd had her at the trial all day, and she won the trial. So, it happens, and it does happen, yeah. And the trial even sticks in my head that it was Almara trial. So, that's how things stick in your head. Yeah, fancy me taking a bitch there that was on season. Didn't know till I got home. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally find if I'm whether it's trialing or going and just working one of my dogs at a mate's place or whatnot, I can generally tell when one of my bitches are going to come into season because they're just off a bit. Whether they might go a bit off me or I just put them back in the ute because I don't want to get in a fight with them. It kind of does my head in a bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't have that sort of problem. Because usually if I've got 1 on here, I've got 5 or 6 on at the one time. It seems to be if 1 comes on, the whole lot are on, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. But you get it all over and done with at the one time. But
when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, that's right. That's it, right. But apart from that, no. Yeah, I just think bitches are easier to teach.
No, fantastic.
Is there any hidden talent or hobby you have that most dog people wouldn't know about?
I just didn't quite get that one.
Away from dogs, do you have any like hidden talents or hobbies that most people wouldn't know about?
Oh, well, a lot of people wouldn't know that I was a good camp drafter. I travelled a lot of places as a young fella camp drafting. And also we showed Murray grey cattle for nearly 25 years. And as the family was growing up, it kept grandma and grandpa together, and the two girls and my son and Narelle and I together, and we'd wash the cattle the day before and away to the show and trials and camp out with them. And, went to Brisbane a couple of times, Sydney once. But no, I'm jack of all trades, master of none. That'd be the best way of saying it. There's nothing I haven't had to go at. I've been a manager of a macadamia farm. It's amazing what you can learn pretty quickly if you've got no money and you want a few $1 to come in. It's. I was a scrap metal dealer for 3 years. I used to travel around with a truck, buy all the scrap, and then head back to the Brisbane depot with it. I've been around a dairy farm for 5 years. Well, that was when the recession hit. We were just married, 72, and the recession hit, and nobody wanted us then. So I went dairy farming. I didn't mind it actually, but my wife didn't like getting out of bed in the wee hours of the morning, so she went back nursing. She went back nursing.
If there's anyone you'd like us to sit down and have a chat with, Robert, who would that be?
Who would that be? Probably the most entertaining old bloke to talk to is Snow Ellis. And Snow Ellis is a dog trialer, been a pig man, an excellent water diviner. There's probably nothing he hasn't done either. He's sort of very, very handy man, knows how to prepare vealers for the butchers, prepares vealers, say 6 or 8 vealers every month for a set butcher. And he used to know the breeding and the bloodlines of all the dogs. And that is one thing I can't remember is bloodlines of dogs. I've got to go and look at the book, and even half the dogs I got myself, I've got to go and look. But I put that down to old age, but I've never been really good at it. And it's the same as people's names. It takes me a while to get to know. Once I know you, that's fine. I couldn't get it in my head that you were Daniel, see? So.
I have that effect on people, mate. I'm not very memorable.
No, that's about the size of what I get up to. No.
If there's something you'd like to see on our website, mate, what would that be?
Well, I think what you're doing at the moment is fantastic. We've just got to be able to work out how to get onto that site a little bit easier than what it is, and surely it can be made a little easier. To get onto that site, so that if somebody rings up and says, Robert, one of your mates is on, you can just go in and press one button and you've got it. I'm probably pretty lazy these days, and that's why I had to call my wife to come and help me set this up. We get there. But I love that stock magazine. I really think that's fantastic. I'm just, I hope you can keep the reins down a little bit, keep the price down so I can keep it going. That's the only place. That's the only place I advertise. Everything else I sell is either repeat buyers or word of mouth. And that's as good as I can get it. And I don't know. I've had one pup in the Tamworth sale, and I was going to only because a bloke rang up nicely at Burner, which is just over the border in Queensland, in August, he wanted me to put a dog and a bitch in the sale. And he said, I've bought a lot of dogs off you. Come on, you've got to support me. And I said, all right, I'll put 2 in the sale. Then we couldn't get across the border, so they postponed the sale. So I don't even put dogs in sales. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's all good fun. And what you're doing is fantastic. I couldn't think of anything to tell you to do that you aren't already doing.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks for the feedback, mate.
And great people to talk to. That's a big plus.
Oh, we try. I don't know about her, but she'll whack me as soon as we get off here. She'll just punch me in the side of the head.
You'd be lost without her, I can tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs someone to keep me in check.
Every successful man, there's a good woman.
Yeah, well, lucky she's only like a little sister, mate, so I don't have to listen to everything she tells me. I'm still big enough and ugly enough to make my own decisions, apparently.
Fair enough. Yeah.
There you go. So, Rob, we had a few questions there tonight, mate. Was there anything that stood out? Anything that you remember to win our bag of Enduro dog food?
Yeah, I reckon that one was a pretty interesting one that I couldn't answer with the young gentleman in the wheelchair as to what he should have. And you helped me answer that one. And I reckon that was a pretty cluey and pretty clever little question to put out there. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, that was great. That was Josh Parker. So, Josh, don't hesitate, mate. Get in contact with us, and we'll get a bag of Enduro plus working dog food on its way to you, mate.
We'd like to thank you tonight, Robert, for jumping on and having a chat with us. We really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. I hope I was, good enough for you to not get into trouble or do too much.
More than good.
Hold on, mate. She hasn't let you off the hook. She hasn't let you off the hook just yet.
I have one more question for you.
Okay.
If you had to choose between fighting 20 ducks the size of horses,
that never come through at all. Never heard that.
No, that's all right. If you had to choose between fighting 20 ducks the size of horses or 1 duck the size of a horse, what one would you choose?
I wished I could have understood that properly, but...
Would you like me to say it again?
Yeah, if you don't mind, yeah?
Yeah, no, that's all right. Would you prefer to fight 20 ducks the size of horses or 1 duck the size of a horse? One horse the size of a duck. Sorry, it's very confusing.
1 horse the size of a duck. No, I'd handle 20.
Yeah,
you got them covered?
Yeah, I'd be able to cover that. Yeah.
With or without dogs?
No, with dogs.
With dogs?
I'd probably use 7 or 8 dogs at the one time. and all under control. Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
I'll just finish on a note for you. I was at a trial out the other side of Tamworth, very late in the afternoon. The boys had all had a fair few beers under their belt, and I was the last competitor. And I was the last competitor for the afternoon, and I was having all sorts of problems. So the boys raced up to my ute and let every one of the dogs out. And these dogs all come from nowhere. I put my hand up. Sorry, sir, but I said, but can I finish the course? So I went over and started again with the 8 dogs and put them around the obstacles and then put them away. Yeah, that was probably one of the best achievements I ever did. So now I make that a practice. When I'm finished, when I'm finished my training days, I let them all go and put the cattle away, put the last lot of cattle away with the whole lot of the dogs. So that's why I say I wouldn't be frightened to take 20 on.
Well, there you go, guys. And Robert, thanks again for your time tonight, mate. We really appreciate it. And if everyone out there, please remember, we learn every day, and the day we stop learning will be a sad one for all of us. Have a great evening.
That's dead set for sure.
100%. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.